it's Mel here from simplylive.com.au, coming to you from Arcos de la Frontera in Spain. I'm getting a little bit better at rolling my R's. I've had a lot of people asking me about the costs of travel and how can I possibly do it when it's so expensive to travel and all of that sort of stuff. And I really want to push aside some of those misconceptions. Travel, as many people travel when they're on holidays, is expensive. Most people want to fly, most people want to stay in hotels, all of those sorts of things. I don't live anything like that. And what I want to explain to you is just how cheaply it is to live this sort of life that I live. And I do the most incredible things, and I see the most incredible things, and I meet the most incredible people for much, much, much less money than I could possibly pay for living in my regular life before, where we work and do all of those things. So what I wanted to run through with you today, I'm going to do two videos. This one I'll do today, the other one I probably won't be for a few more weeks, because this one is my expensive week video. So this is kind of usually about worst case scenario for me, and I wanted to give you a cost around that and explain how I came to spending that much money in a particular week on my travels. Now, how much money? Are you sitting down? I'll just check my figures here because I've done it all up for you and I'm going to post it up. I'm going to do the figures in euro because that's where I am, euro. It has cost me for the past week €205 and 83 cents to live in its entirety for this particular week. That is a lot of money for me. That is quite high. That is very high for me. And in Australian dollars, that's probably around the 330 to 350 mark, somewhere in there. So I don't normally spend anywhere like that amount of money. So let me explain to you why this week was an expensive one. And then I'll do one in another week where I'm settled into a pet sit or just moving more regularly. So I normally do house and pet sitting as I go, which means I don't have to pay for accommodation. Sometimes there's a bit of gap between the pet sits, so I need to find somewhere to stay. In this particular week, I had the whole week where I was actually on the road travelling. I left my pet sit in Algeciras in Portugal and I was coming over here to Arcos. And the whole week was free. Now, I was offered a pet sit in the middle, but I actually wanted to see that southern bit of the coast, and I decided that rather than do that, I would actually take the time out to just go to the places I wanted to see and have a look around and not worry about pet sitting this week. I've only had to do that a couple of times. Last year I spent a whole month in Valencia because I wanted to check it out. And I've had a few other, like when I've gone to Lisboa to see my son, I might have had a week where I've stayed there or something like that, and I'll have another one of those coming up. So it's kind of, I would say, probably on average 4 to 6 weeks a year that I have an expensive week like this, and all the rest are much more stable and involved in pet sits. And of course I can have a more expensive week if I decide to go to a pet sit in another country which has got expensive flights or something like that. But most of the time I'm using buses to get around, which are quite cheap even between countries in Europe. So what's involved in this that's cost more money? Well, let me run through the costs, and I'm going to put a spreadsheet up. If I can figure out how to attach it to YouTube, I will put the spreadsheet up of my costs for the week so you can see where I spent my money. And I'm referring to it here, so excuse my eyes diverting off while I check my list. So first of all, this is on the 1st of February. I had to travel for my pet sit in Algeciras to Lagos, where I was going to check out Lagos for a few days. That cost me €4.05. Then I stayed in the hostel. I paid for that day for the hostel for 2 nights, which was €18.98. I then went to the supermarket and I bought food for €17.79. I went to a clothing shop, which was a cheap clothing shop. I decided I needed a lighter weight raincoat. Mine was too heavy and bulky, so I wanted to get rid of it. And it was cold, so I wanted something, a scarfy thing to put over my head. So that was €6 for some extra clothing that day. So bearing in mind that when I'm in a pet sit where I'm staying for a week or more, I can shop for the week. And it's much more cost effective to shop for a week and to be able to pop things into a freezer, like get a little bit of meat that lasts and pop it into the freezer, or get a big loaf of bread or things like that I can put it into a freezer. but because I was in a hostel and initially when I got there, I thought I was only going to stay 1 to 2 nights. So I'm buying a little bit of food, which is more expensive to buy in smaller lots. I bought bread rolls instead of a whole thing. I'm buying some food that I'm not actually going to get to consume. I'm getting pretty good at knowing exactly what I need for 3 days, but sometimes you're just going to have a little bit of an overabundance somewhere. So you have bought a little bit too much of something. So $17.79 for 3 days food, as it turned out, or 2 days food, and then I got a little bit more later, was quite expensive for me. Okay, so that was day one. Day two, I then decided to do a day trip to go out to see this beautiful village called Villa de Bispo. The return bus trip was €6.70. I bought myself a cup of coffee, which was 65 cents in euro, and that's all I spent that whole day. Day 3rd of February, I decided to stay in the hostel in Lagos for another night, which was another €9.49. I had coffee with a friend. I bought their coffee, which was €1.85. I bought some craft stuff. I've decided, and this is kind of a one-off cost. I just decided I was getting a little bit bored of sitting on buses and transport all of the time doing nothing. So I bought some craft and twine to do a few things with, which I've never done before. So I lashed out €11.70 on craft supplies. So that was day 3. Day 4, I paid for the bus trip to Tavira, which is actually quite expensive for a short trip. These short trips are often more expensive than the long ones. So I had to get from Lagos across to Faro and then to Tavira, 2 different buses, €11.70. Then I paid for the hostel in Tavira for 3 nights. So a big expense for me, €42.90, and that included €42.90, and that included breakfast as well. So €14 odd euro, including breakfast per night. I then bought a cup of coffee, €1. I went to the supermarket and bought some food and some skin cream, which was €14.41. I went, and that was day 4. That was the 4th of February. 5th of February, once again, caught up with a friend for coffee, paid for their coffee. God, I'm generous. €1.40. I went to the supermarket. I bought a little bit of food for the day, and I also bought one of the shopping bags. Mine's getting a little bit ratty, so I decided to the fold-up shopping bags. So that in total was about $4. I haven't quite added up, $3.50. And that was the day 5, 5th of February. 6th of February, I bought myself a cup of coffee. I'll be getting a pattern here, 70 cents. Then I paid for my trip from Tavira to Arcos, which was a really expensive trip. So despite it not being far, I had to get a bus through to Jerez de la Frontera, and that was €35, which is horribly expensive for me. Then I went and got a little bit of snack on the road, some food, bread roll, banana stuff, €1.17. And then on the day of travel, when I left Tavira and came to Arcos, it was coffee. I ended up having 2 coffees, €1.40. And then I had to catch the bus from from Jerez to Arcos, which was €2. So then I have a couple of costs that I have to pay out all of the time, my ongoing costs. So you probably have electricity and rates and medical insurance and all of those sorts of things, car insurance, house insurance, all of that sort of stuff. Well, this is mine. I have to pay for my phone SIM card, which works out about €3.75 per week. And I have to pay for my travel and medical insurance, which I pay annually, which works out to about €9. So I'm trying to just remember if I've forgotten something, but I think that's my only ongoing costs. So to give you a total of this horrifically expensive week for me, I spent €43.71 on food from supermarkets. I spent €7 on coffee. Once again, if I'm in someone's home and they have a coffee machine, I'm not buying so many coffees out. I'm actually eating in their home. But when I'm in a hostel, I don't really have good coffee on hand. I spent €61.88 on accommodation for the week, which is like $100 on accommodation. I normally don't pay that when I'm in a pet sit. I paid for some public transport. Quite often I do just walk around local areas when I'm staying in a local area for a week or two. But occasionally I do catch public transport, and this I actually wanted to go and visit other towns, and places further away. I was particularly sightseeing, so €9 5. Travel, yeah, I had to move to 3 different places, so that was €51.75, a very expensive week for me for travel. I bought some clothing, which I hardly ever have to buy, but yeah, lashed out and bought some clothing, which was €7.99. And buying some craft supplies, things like that. I call that entertainment, €11.70. And then my general on costs, phone, everything, phone and insurance was €12.75. So that totaled €205.83 in one of my most expensive weeks. So normally I'm doing pet sits. The shorter the pet sits, I'm currently in a pet sit now, which is only about 4 days. So I've got to move again. I'll do another one, which is about 5 days, and then I move again. And then I do another one for 5 or 6 days, and another one for a week or something like that. So I really prefer not to do a lot of these really short sits, just for my own stability a little bit. And also because of the costs, they're very expensive to get around. But I do it intermittently because I want to see certain areas. So for the rest of this month, it is kind of it's going to be an expensive month for me altogether, about an expensive 5 weeks while I get around all of these places. But I will do a comparative one once I get to a pet sit where I'm settled for a couple of weeks, with the cost of getting there to that pet sit, and then what I spend while I'm there, so that you can see the difference and just how cheaply it is to live. But I think most people would agree, €205.83, which is around about 350 Australian dollars, is my cost of living, of everything I need for my life for the week, on an expensive week for me. I hope that gives you an idea on how cheaply it can be to simply live. If you are enjoying these videos, please subscribe, please hit the thumbs up button, and please tell your friends. I mean, if you know people who keep saying to you, oh, I'd love to travel, but it costs me so much money. I haven't got the money, I've got to wait, I've got to work so hard until I can afford to retire, or I can afford to go on holidays. Say, no, check this out. This is Mel's expensive week. Share, share, share. Talk to you later, guys. Bye.